Imagine a scene: a 6-year-old child, sitting in the corner of a room, knees pulled tight to his chest. Someone is shouting outside. He is silent, not even crying, just waiting for someone to come, for someone to ask, "Are you okay?" No one comes. That child falls asleep that night. And the next morning, life continues as normal. Everything seems fine. But that child, he never left that room. Today, 25 years later, when your boss snaps at you and your heart suddenly sinks, when your partner doesn't text for 2 hours and a strange anxiety begins crawling through you, when even after success, some hollow emptiness remains inside. That isn't you reacting. That is that child. In the next 8 minutes, I'm going to show you 3 pieces of research from psychology and neuroscience that prove this isn't just poetic language. This is scientific reality. And at the end, we will return to that same child, because one part of this story is still unfinished. Part 1. Is this your story too? First, pause for a moment and ask yourself honestly, has someone ever spoken to you with just a little sharpness, and you spent hours replaying those words in your head? When someone close to you goes quiet, does your mind immediately start racing? What did I do wrong? In every relationship, is there a quiet, unspoken fear that this person too, one day, will leave? If you just nodded, stop. This is no coincidence. This is a pattern that was learned years ago, and then forgotten, but not erased. And to understand it, we need to go to 1950s London, to a doctor who said something that people first laughed at, and then the entire world's way of seeing psychology changed forever. John Bowlby was a British psychiatrist. After the Second World War, he was assigned to work with children growing up in orphanages. These children had food, they had clothes, they had a roof over their heads. But Bowlby noticed something strange. These children were dying, not physically, from within. Their eyes were empty. They didn't play. They didn't laugh. Bowlby said something that was considered unscientific at the time. Children hunger for a consistent emotional relationship more than they hunger for food. People mocked him. Hunger is for the stomach. Then came an American researcher, Mary Ainsworth. She designed an experiment to prove Bowlby's idea, one that is still counted among the most famous experiments in psychology to this day. The strange situation: one room, one mother, one child, some toys. The mother steps out for a few minutes, then comes back. Ainsworth observed hundreds of children in this scenario, and found that children responded in 4 completely different ways. 1. Secure, the safe child. Mother leaves, child gets a little upset. Mother returns, child comes calmly into her arms and goes back to playing. The message: you left, but you came back. Everything is okay. 2. Anxious, the restless child. Mother leaves, child cries loudly. Mother returns, child comes into her arms but clings. Gets angry too. The message: you left, you might leave again. I won't let you go. 3. Avoidant, the distant child. Mother leaves, no reaction on the child's face. Mother returns, the child looks away. The message: I've learned that showing need is pointless. 4. Disorganized, the confused child. Mother returns. The child runs toward her, then freezes. The message: you are my refuge, and you are my fear. Now here is the In 1987, 2 researchers named Cindy Hazan and Philip Shaver ran the same experiment on adults. But this time, the mother was replaced by a romantic partner. The result? The exact same 4 patterns, word for word, meaning that 30-year-old man who fights with his girlfriend every 2 days and then comes crawling back with apologies. He is that anxious child. That 40-year-old woman who won't let anyone get close. She is that avoidant child. Age changed, clothes changed, names changed. The pattern stayed the same. But how does this pattern hold such control over us? The answer is hidden in one small part of the brain, one that makes decisions in thousandths of a second, before you even think. Part 3. The amygdala, the secret guard who decides before you think. Imagine you're standing at the door of a house. Inside, there are 2 guards. One guard is very fast, but his eyesight is poor. He simply watches. Did something arrive? Or, did something move? And immediately sounds the alarm. The second guard is slow, but he is intelligent. He first examines who has arrived, why they came, whether there is danger or a friend. Then he decides. Your brain has these same 2 guards. The fast guard's name is the amygdala, a small, almond-shaped structure sitting deep in the middle of the brain. The intelligent guard is the prefrontal cortex, behind your forehead. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux, in his book, The Emotional Brain, proved after decades of research that emotional information reaches the brain through 2 pathways. The fast pathway, directly to the amygdala, in just 12 milliseconds. The slow pathway, through the cortex, approximately 10 times longer. Now understand this through an example. Suppose you're at the office. A message comes from your boss. Come to my office. You think, alright, I'll come. That is your cortex, the intelligent guard. But before that thought even completes, your heart is already beating faster. A slight tightening in your stomach. Cold hands. That is the amygdala. And it is not reacting to something new. It is reacting to something old. Perhaps the tone your father used when you were 12. 12. Perhaps the dread of being called to the teacher's office. The amygdala has no timestamp for it. 1998 and 2024 are the same. This is where your past slips into your present, without you even noticing. But there is still one more thing to address, because the deepest wounds of childhood are not the ones we remember. They are the ones we don't remember at all. Part 4. The wound that never happened. A woman came to a friend's therapist, 38 years old, successful, married, 2 children, everything perfect, she said. Why am I not happy? Nothing bad ever happened to me. No abuse, no cruelty, no poverty. My mother still says, you had everything. Then why is this emptiness there? The therapist asked one simple question. When you cried as a child, did anyone ever ask you why you were crying? The woman went still. Then, softly, she said, no. Everyone just told me to be quiet. This is exactly what psychologist Dr. John Iceweb named in her book, Running on Empty, Childhood Emotional Neglect, CN. CN is not abuse. It is not cruelty. It is not poverty. CN is what never happened. The tears that were never wiped away. The question that was never asked. The hug that never came. The words, I understand why you're sad, that were never heard. Dr. Webb writes that the most dangerous aspect of CN is this. The child doesn't even remember what was lost. Because how do you remember something that was never given? But growing up, that person lives in a strange state. Everything is fine, and yet something feels incomplete. Developmental psychology tells us that for a child to grow up emotionally healthy, 3 fundamental things are needed. Safety. Someone is there. Attention. I am seen. Acceptance. I am okay as I am. If even one of these falls short, the adult spends their life searching for that same thing. In relationships, in jobs, in praise, in likes. And the heartbreaking truth is this. No adult relationship, no matter how beautiful, can completely fill that void. Because that void belongs to that time. And it can only be filled from that same place. But, and here is where the story turns, is this possible? Can that void truly be filled? Science says yes. And the proof came from an island, where one woman watched the lives of 698 children for 30 years. 1955. The island of Kauai, Hawaii. A young psychologist, Emmy Werner, began studying all 698 children born on the island that year. For 3 decades. Nearly 1/3 of those children were growing up in extremely difficult circumstances. Poverty, domestic violence, parental alcoholism, mental illness, neglect. The entire psychological community's expectation was, these children will be broken by life. Crime, addiction, shattered relationships. Werner kept taking notes. The years passed. Then she saw something that changed her own beliefs. Of those high-risk children, 1/3, approximately 72 children, emerged as remarkably strong, healthy, and successful adults. They sustained marriages. They gave their children love. They fought back against life. Werner gave them a name. Resilient children. Then she began searching for the secret. What exactly separated them from the rest? DNA? Intelligence? Luck? The answer was so simple that Werner herself was astonished. In the lives of all these strong children, there was at least one person, a grandmother, a teacher, a neighbor, an older brother, an uncle. Just one person who saw them, heard them, and consistently treated them as important. Just one relationship, enough to change an entire story. And here comes the deepest point of all, perhaps the single most valuable sentence in this entire video. As an adult, you can become that one person yourself, for yourself. But is this possible? Can the old patterns of the brain truly be changed at 30, 40, or 50 years of age? The answer lies in a discovery from neuroscience that completely transformed our understanding of human potential. For decades, science believed that the adult brain was fixed. Once formed, it was formed. Then, in the last few decades, neuroscience discovered something that changed everything: neuroplasticity, meaning the brain retains the ability to rewire its neural connections throughout life. New experiences, new relationships, and new ways of thinking can weaken the brain's old pathways and build new ones. This is the very principle on which evidence-based therapies work. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, changes old patterns of thought. EMDR helps reprocess old traumas. Schema therapy works specifically on the deep patterns rooted in childhood. You cannot change your past, but you can change your relationship with your past. And this is not a spiritual slogan. This is science. So right now, in this very moment, there are 3 things you can do. 1. Place 1 second between the reaction and the reality. When an old emotion flares, stop and ask yourself one question. How much of this reaction belongs to this moment, and how much belongs to some moment long ago? This one question builds a bridge between the amygdala and the cortex, every time. 2. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to a frightened child. Dr. Kristen Neff's research on self-compassion has proven that this actually lowers stress hormones. It isn't just behavior that changes, chemistry changes. 3. If needed, see a professional. Speaking to a trained therapist is is not weakness. It is exactly the same decision as seeing a doctor for a broken bone. Now, for a moment, let us return to the scene from the beginning. That same 6-year-old child, in the corner of the room, knees pulled to his chest, waiting. This time, someone comes. Someone sits beside him, gently places a hand on his shoulder, and for the first time, speaks the words that child has been waiting a lifetime to hear. I am here. You are not alone. What you feel matters. The child slowly lifts his head, and the person sitting before him is no one else. It is you, the grown-up you of today. This is that one person Emmy Werner spoke of. This is the healing that neuroplasticity makes possible. This is the true message of all of Bowlby's, Webb's, and Ledoux's science. You are not just living your life. You are also completing the unfinished story of the child you once were. And that child, even today, in that same corner of that same room, is waiting for one decision from you. If today's message has reached your heart, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and write just one word in the comments. Begin, because every great change starts with one small decision. And perhaps your decision is today.